She showed up at dawn with a clipboard and a fake smile that could slice through glass. "Good morning. We'll be setting up the event here today," she said, waving her manicured hand toward my front gate like she owned the place. I was still holding my coffee, trying to process what this woman, Karen, as her name tag proudly read, had just said. Behind her, a line of catering trucks and a bus full of strangers were already rumbling down my private dirt road. "This is private property," I told her, my voice calm but my heart beat anything but. She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, I know, sweetie. HOA approved a charity function here. You'll be compensated." Eventually. Compensated? I didn't even have an HOA. My ranch sat outside city limits. 30 acres of peace I bought after 10 years in the Marines, far from noise and rules. But somehow, this woman believed she could waltz in and turn it into a wedding venue. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Ma'am, I'm asking you to leave." She smirked and stepped closer. "You can record all you want. HOA owns these grounds now, per the updated zoning map." Her tone dripped with arrogance. I felt the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Then I noticed the trucks unloading tables, champagne bottles, even portable toilets on my front lawn. "If you don't leave," I said slowly, "you're trespassing." She crossed her arms. "Try to stop us." And with that, she waved to a group of workers who started setting up a massive white tent right over my vegetable garden. I stood there, still and cold, thinking how easily one person's greed could rewrite someone else's peace. Then I smiled. A slow, quiet smile she didn't understand yet, because she had no idea who she was dealing with. I watched her march across my lawn like she was hosting the Oscars. Workers followed every wave of her hand, rolling out carpets and flower arches. The sound of hammers hitting metal echoed through the morning air. My dog, Ranger, growled low beside me. He didn't like strangers any more than I did. "Call animal control if that mutt comes near my guests," Karen barked, pointing at him. My jaw tightened. "You're lucky he's trained better than your manners," I said. She snapped her fingers at one of the men. "Put the bar set up here. We want sunset views for the champagne photos." I could feel my blood rising, but I didn't move, not yet. I needed proof, and every second, every word, every fake order she gave on my property. Then I noticed something off. One of the trucks had a big HOA event team logo, freshly printed, edges still wrinkled from being glued on. My instincts kicked in. That wasn't official. That was a prop. I walked over, phone still recording, and looked at the driver. "Who hired you?" He hesitated, then whispered. "Some lady named Karen, paid cash, said this was HOA land." His eyes darted nervously to her. I thought she was legit. Before I could say another word, Karen's voice cut through the air. "You, step away from my staff." She stormed toward me, heels digging into the dirt. "You're interfering with an authorized HOA function." I turned the camera to her face. "Then you won't mind if I call the county inspector to confirm that authorization, right?" For the first time, she blinked. "You wouldn't dare." I took my phone, scrolled to my contacts, and hit a number labeled County Zoning. "Mike, active duty buddy." The line rang once. "Hey, Mike, got a quick one for you," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You still handling illegal land use cases out here?" Karen froze. Her smile cracked. "Illegal?" she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "Oh yeah," I said, eyes locked on hers. "You might want to stick around for this." Mike's truck roared up my driveway 10 minutes later, dust curling in the morning air. Karen's guests had started arriving. Women in glittering dresses, men in suits, all stepping carefully around my muddy driveway like it was a red carpet. They had no idea this wasn't a party. It was about to be a scene. Karen straightened her blazer as Mike stepped out. "Excuse me, this is a private function," she said quickly, blocking his path. He flashed his badge, cool and steady. "County inspector." "Got a call about illegal property use." The color drained from her face. "That's absurd," she stammered. "This land falls under HOA jurisdiction. We have permits." Mike turned to me. "You the owner?" I nodded. "Title's in my name. 30 acres. Paid off 3 years ago." Karen let out a fake laugh, high-pitched and desperate. "He's lying. He's been renting here. The HOA reclaimed this property for community purposes." Mike raised a brow. "You have documentation?" She reached into her folder and handed him a stack of papers with shaking hands. He skimmed them, then frowned. "These aren't county files. These are printouts from a neighborhood website." She stepped back, trying to recover. "Well, they were approved online." Mike cut her off. Ma'am, nothing about this event is approved. You're staging an illegal assembly on private property. He gestured toward the tents, the caterers, the guests now staring with champagne glasses half raised. Everyone needs to clear out. Karen's mask cracked completely. Do you know who I am? I run this district, she snapped, voice rising. This community follows my rules. Mike's voice went cold. Not anymore, ma'am. The tension broke like a thunderclap. Guests started whispering, stepping back toward their cars. One caterer quietly began packing up trays. Karen spun toward me, fury twisting her face. You think this is over? You'll regret humiliating me like this. I took a slow sip of my now cold coffee and said, You already humiliated yourself. She glared at me, trembling, then pulled out her phone. Fine, you want to play hard? I'll make a few calls. Let's see how your little ranch holds up when the real HOA board gets involved. Mike leaned closer to me. You might want to keep recording, he muttered. Something tells me she's not done yet. He was right. She wasn't just mad, she was planning her next move. And I had no idea just how far she'd go. By the next morning, my gate had a bright orange notice nailed to it. HOA property seizure. Effective immediately. I almost laughed. The same woman who trespassed on my land was now trying to legally claim it. The signature at the bottom said, Karen L. Monroe, District Director. Except there was no district. I checked every record. No HOA had ever existed within 5 miles of my ranch. My phone buzzed just as I tore the paper down. Mr. Walker, a voice said, smooth but sharp. This is the HOA legal office. You're occupying restricted property. Vacate by 5 p.m. or we'll proceed with removal. I recognized the voice, and it was Karen. She'd gone full villain mode, pretending to be a lawyer. I hit record again. Funny, I said, I didn't know fake lawyers could make real threats. There was a pause. Then she hissed, You'll be gone by tonight. Click. I stood there staring at the empty road. For a moment, I thought maybe she was bluffing. But around noon I heard the sound of engines again. This time it wasn't caterers. It was 3 black trucks, all with magnetic property enforcement decals slapped on the sides. Karen stepped out first, wearing sunglasses like she was leading a SWAT team. Remove him, she ordered. This ranch belongs to the community now. The men behind her started toward me. I kept my voice calm. You boys sure you want to touch that gate? I said, pointing toward the new sign I'd posted that morning. Surveillance active. All trespassers reported to county and state authorities. One of them hesitated. Karen turned on him. Don't listen to him. He's squatting. That's when a drone buzzed overhead, mine. It hovered right above the trucks, its camera light blinking. I smiled. Say cheese. Karen froze, realizing she was being recorded from every angle. Body cams, drone, and security feeds. I'm done playing nice, I told her. You brought fake notices, fake cops, fake papers. Now let's see how you do with real county evidence. For the first time, her voice cracked. You wouldn't dare send that footage, I cut her off. Already did, her face went white. She turned to her men. Get in the trucks, she yelled. But before they could move, 2 sheriff cruisers pulled up behind them, lights flashing red and blue. Karen's voice trembled. No, this can't be happening. Oh, it was happening. And it was just getting started. The sheriff stepped out slow, the kind of slow that makes everyone nervous. The air went dead quiet except for the crunch of gravel under their boots. Karen straightened her blazer like she could still control the scene, but her hands were shaking. Afternoon, one of the deputies said, eyes moving from me to her. We got multiple reports of unauthorized property enforcement and trespassing. Karen tried to sound confident. This is an HOA seizure. He's on community property. The deputy tilted his head. You got paperwork for that? She flashed her folder again. Same fake documents, same website printouts. The deputy flipped through them, then looked up. Ma'am, these are worthless. This land's registered under Walker Holdings, LLC. That's him. He pointed to me. Her face twitched. You don't understand. I have approval from the board. The second deputy spoke up, holding out a tablet. We already checked, ma'am. There is no board. There isn't even an HOA registered for this county. Karen's voice cracked. That can't be. Someone's mistaken. The first deputy sighed. Someone's lying, that's for sure. He turned to me. You want to press charges? Before I could answer, Karen's phone rang. She turned away to answer, whispering fast and panicked. But I caught a name. Lance, the investor. That's when it hit me. She wasn't acting alone. This wasn't about community rules, it was a land grab. My land was sitting on the edge of a new highway project. Someone wanted it cheap, and she was their puppet. I stepped closer. Whose land's Karen? She spun around. None of your business. The deputy frowned. Ma'am, we're going to need you to hand over that phone. She backed up, clutching it tight. You can't take that. I have rights. The deputy's voice went firm. And so does he. You've violated about 5 of them. He nodded to the other officer, who stepped forward. Karen screamed, "Don't touch me," as they took her phone and cuffed her hands. The guests who had returned to grab their stuff were filming everything now. Phones out, whispers spreading like wildfire. That's the HOA lady, one man muttered. Did she just get arrested? I didn't say a word. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her world collapse. But deep down I knew this wasn't over. If she had investors behind her, this arrest was only the start of something much bigger. And I was more than ready for round 2. 2 days later, I was sitting on my porch when a black SUV rolled up. Tinted windows, quiet engine, government plates. For a moment I thought maybe it was another one of Karen's games, but when the door opened, I recognized the man stepping out. Agent Daniels, County Fraud Division, he said, flashing a badge. Mind if we talk about your HOA incident? I nodded and poured 2 coffees. He sat across from me, scanning the wide stretch of land that glowed under the late afternoon sun. We've been tracking this operation for months, he said. Karen Monroe's just one of several people creating fake HOAs across the state. They target private owners near development zones, usually veterans or retirees with paid-off land. I leaned back. So, Lance? Daniels nodded slowly. Lance Grover. Real estate investor. He's the one funding it. They forge county documents, host community events, then push claims in court to seize land on zoning technicalities. It's organized fraud. A slow anger built in my chest. And you're telling me they've done this before? Twice that we know of, he said. But this time you gave us something we never had. Video evidence and live law enforcement response. He smiled faintly. Your footage already triggered a federal probe. I didn't answer right away. I just looked out at the fields where the grass had grown back from where her tents once stood. It felt wrong and peaceful but fragile. Daniel set his cup down. One more thing, he said. We got a warrant for Grover's office this morning. Guess whose name showed up on the property deed transfer list? He slid a paper across the table. At the top was Walker Ranch, my land, listed under pending reassignment. They were days away from stealing it legally, he said quietly. I clenched my jaw. So what happens now? Daniel stood. Now? We build a case. But I'll warn you, Grover's not the kind of man who backs down quietly. As his SUV disappeared down the road, I looked back at the ranch, my dog lying by the fence, the wind cutting low through the grass. For the first time, I realized this wasn't about one crazy HOA lady. It was about power, and the people who thought they could take anything from anyone too quiet to fight back. Well, they picked the wrong quiet man. That night, the wind was heavy, the kind that carries trouble before it arrives. Around midnight, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped onto the porch. Headlights glowed at the end of the drive. Another SUV. This one didn't have plates. 3 men got out, dressed in black. No badges, no words, just slow, deliberate movements. The lead one stepped forward, his voice cold. Mr. Walker, Lance sends his regards. He wants this over quietly. I didn't move. You're trespassing, I said. He smiled. Not for long. Sign this deed transfer and you can keep 10% of the payout. Or we do it the hard way. He held up a folder, already filled out, my signature line blank. I kept my eyes on him but spoke low. You really think this'll work? Worked plenty of times before, he said, smirking. But those folks didn't have your background. That's when I realized he knew exactly who I was. My military file wasn't public, but someone had done their homework. You were Army, right? He continued. Let's not turn this into a fight. Just a pen and some paper. I took one slow step forward, then another. You brought a pen? He held it out cocky. Right here. I grabbed it and then drove my elbow into his ribs so hard the air flew out of him. The folder dropped. The other 2 rushed forward, but they weren't ready for Ranger. My dog lunged from the shadows, teeth flashing. One man went down screaming. The third pulled a taser, and that's when floodlights snapped on. I'd set up a full perimeter lighting system earlier that day. The whole scene lit up like a stage. Within seconds, headlights flared again. 2 sheriff cruisers, sirens wailing. Mike jumped out, gun drawn. "Hands where I can see them." The men froze. The one I'd hit was coughing in the dirt. Mike looked at me, half smiling. "You always did know how to throw a welcome party." I shrugged. They invited themselves. Within minutes, they were cuffed, read their rights, and hauled off. Mike walked over, shaking his head. We traced the SUV to Grover's company. He's officially out of hiding. I looked toward the highway lights in the distance. "Then I'm coming for him next," Mike frowned. "Careful, Walker. He's got lawyers and money," I nodded slowly. "Good, I've got truth and cameras." He smiled. "Guess we'll see which wins, but I already knew." The courthouse smelled like old wood and tension. Rows of people filled the benches. Reporters, county officials, even a few of Karen's old guests, waiting to see what would happen. At the front sat Lance Grover. Sharp suit, slick hair, smirk like he owned the air. His lawyer stood and started the performance. "Your Honor, my client acted under the belief that the property in question was abandoned." I stood before he could finish. "Abandoned?" I said, my voice steady but sharp. "You mean the land I've lived on for 10 years? The one I paid off with combat pay? That land?" The courtroom went quiet. Grover's smirk faded just a little. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Walker, you'll have your turn." "Oh, I'm ready," I said, holding up a small USB drive. "Everything's on here. Video footage, audio calls, financial transfers between Grover's company and Karen Monroe's fake HOA fund. Every lie, every threat, every time they tried to steal what wasn't theirs." Grover's lawyer started to object, but the judge waved him off. "Proceed." When the first video played, Karen's voice screaming, "Remove him," followed by her fake seizure notice, the courtroom gasped. Then came the footage of the men in black, the drone angles, the timestamps, and finally the arrest records. Grover shifted in his seat, the sweat visible now. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Grover, do you deny these are your employees?" Grover opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His lawyer whispered something fast, desperate. Too late. Daniels from the fraud division stepped forward from the gallery. "Your Honor, the federal investigation confirms Mr. Grover orchestrated multiple fraudulent HOA takeovers across 3 counties. We're requesting immediate seizure of his assets and formal charges." The judge's gavel hit hard. "So ordered." Grover turned to me, fury behind his eyes. "You think this is justice?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, this is accountability." They led him out in cuffs, cameras flashing from every corner. Karen's arrest video had already gone viral a week before. Now the mastermind was joining her. Outside the courthouse, the wind felt different, clean, lighter. Mike clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, brother. They're finished." I looked out at the horizon, my land stretching wide and golden again. "I didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't live on my own soil," I said quietly. "They thought they could take it. Now it's protected by the same freedom they tried to twist." Ranger barked beside me, tail wagging. Mike laughed. "What now?" I smiled. "Now? I build a fence high enough to keep the crooks out, and a flag tall enough to remind them why." And as the wind lifted that flag high, the sun caught it. Red, white, and unshakably free. They tried to steal my land with fake power, but they forgot. Real power comes from standing your ground.